Good evening once again. I'd like to call the Committee of the Whole for the Village of Cary for June 17th, 2025 to order with roll call, please.
Collier,
Here.
Dudak,
Here.
McAlpine,
Here.
Persino,
Here.
Stefani,
Here.
Walrath,
Here.
Kownick.
I'm here. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Now moving to the public comments portion. The public is invited to make an issue-oriented comment on any matter of public concern not otherwise on the agenda. I don't have anybody signed in. Is there anybody here like to talk about anything before the committee? Okay, we'll go ahead and close open forum at 6:17. We have three items tonight. First, we'll do a discussion regarding the renewal of the aggregation program for electrical load.
And we have tonight in front of the board Adam Hoover, who's been assisting us and works on behalf of NIMEC and the Village of Cary.
First thing I want to do is kind of give you a review of just one main thing we do with the village and 140 other towns in Illinois is we help find different suppliers for your own power, not residents, your own power. Just to report on that, you guys have a rate at 7.95 cents. The current ComEd rate is 10.5 cents. You guys, it's not a perfect apples to apples comparison, but it's about $62,000 of savings you'll get this year. And you guys are doing that with 100% renewable energy. So you guys have about 200,000 kilowatt hours that is Dynegy is creating on your behalf. That is renewable energy. And the equivalency, that is like creating 15,400 trees for 10 years. Or it is like avoiding 2.1 million miles. And I just want to give you guys credit because that is a decision that's usually made kind of behind closed doors. Our process is a little unique, and we have a lot of towns that talk about wanting to be renewably friendly, but don't follow through with it. And so I just want to give you a little credit on that, and I think it's a good report. Back to you. The main reason I'm here is for the main reason I'm here is for municipal aggregation and the renewal process. Municipal aggregation, as some of you are familiar with, is creating an alternative electric supplier for residents that they have the ability to opt in or out of the program. You are currently running a program with MC Squared, and that is creating the exact same rate for residents as the ComEd rate. There is no savings, there is no extra cost. We always check for that, and I'll get to that in a second, but we checked again this year, and we cannot guarantee savings. And in turn, the village is receiving $12,000, which you are all free to use in any way that you see fit. 2 years ago when we did the program, you guys actually chose to create renewable energy. And so last year you switched, just to give you a little background. This year, the market is actually a little bit improved. So you guys have the option of, instead of 5% renewable energy, you could actually get that to 10% renewable energy, which is a pretty significant increase. Or instead of the $12,000 civic contribution, you could get an $18,000 civic contribution. So I think the first question at hand, I think that the staff is looking for direction on is, do you guys want to go again with a civic contribution with a 1 or 2 year deal? Or would you like to go with renewable energy? Or obviously you can pause the program as well. So I'll answer any questions and help kind of guide conversation there.
I guess before we do that,
Yeah.
Adam, would you mind just giving a very broad maybe overview of the kind of the process for the aggregation? I know you gave a little bit of a highlight there.
Yep.
Especially we have one newer trustee and just for the public as well.
Are you talking about like the letters and communication process?
Yeah, and the steps that we went through and that we are have gone through for this process, and then
Yep.
and again highlighting the cost implications again, just
Perfect.
so we're all clear.
Yep. Okay. So I should get my date right. I think 2012 or 2013, the aggregation program was actually voted upon by, it was a referendum by voters. So you had a majority of voters who wanted to improve this or approve the program. Fully transparent, from 2012 to, once again, I don't know my exact numbers, but 2018, 2019, we were able to help save residents money, which is the number one goal of the program. In 2020-ish, that wasn't able to happen, and we restarted the program, I believe, in 22 with this price match program. As a reminder, their residents are still billed by ComEd and energy delivered by ComEd, so there's really no change to them except for one line on the ComEd bill. Fully transparent, the downside of the program is whenever you start a program again, letters have to go out to residents, and every resident, because of their unique situation, gets a different, I shouldn't say every, but a lot of your neighbors get a different letter than what you have. And I have a solution to that we'll talk about later, but so we know that that's the downside. When letters go out, there's a lot of, I shouldn't say a lot, it gets better every year, but there are some questions and confusion, and as what NIMAC does is we come to the staff and we talk to staff about it. I think they're very familiar with it by now, but more importantly, we will answer any questions that you have. I believe you had a resident here, I don't know, 2-3 months ago that had issues that I spoke to directly. So any resident, and I'll give you all my business card, send them my way. If you don't want to answer any questions, I'll take all the questions. We enjoy it. So does that kind of answer what your process? Okay.
What's your take on this? I think, what is exactly that you're looking for direction on?
What we're looking for direction on first is whether to continue the civic contribution of $18,000 or choose other option of the 10% renewable energy.
Thoughts?
Money. I agree. And just for clarity, the rate's the same.
Guaranteed, no matter what.
Yeah, it's more money in our pocket to do better things, to be less reliant on other things, so, yeah.
May I ask one follow-up question on that?
Sure.
When that money comes in, this is more of a
Sure.
in-house thing, but does that go into a specific fund? Is that earmarked for anything in particular, or just a general fund?
It'll go into the general fund, but we can decide what we'd like to do with that particular contribution. If you want to put it towards, parks or activities or infrastructure, it's completely up to the board to decide how they want to
Okay.
use the funding.
Thank you.
And we will earmark that kind of conversation for our annual budget discussions and capital improvement program discussions. So if that is the direction we end up going, we will bring that back, obviously, with parts of our other capital plans.
The next question at hand is MC Squared is offering a 1 or 2 year deal of $18,000. We are kind of seeing that it has improved. The offers have improved steadily over time. The way the market is, and I don't want to bore you with details, but the power rates are more expensive. All of us are going to experience higher rates. I think it won't be so long, but that allows for them to offer more of a civic contribution. I could bore you with details if you're interested, but so the question is, do you want to do the $18,000 for 1 year or $36,000 total for the 2 years? And one thing I just want to add on top of that is what we've been doing with some of our towns. We know that the letters is the confusion and kind of the downside of the program. And that's because you guys will be renewing the program most likely for the 3rd year in a row, and every resident has to get a letter. And so that creates, and even those that aren't included in the program, even those that have solar that don't want to be in the program, they get another letter. What we've kind of done to get around that is we've recommended like 6-year deals, 5 or 6 year long deals. But in essence, they're still 1 or 2 year deals. In 2 years from now, let's say you guys had a 2 year deal. You could opt out of the program just like you normally could. You could exit the program, you could leave. It's just a normal 2 year deal. But if you continue with the price match program, which is what we've done the last 3 years, then you only have to notify the residents that are in the program. And there's still debate if you even have to do that. It just limits the amount of letters. There is no 6 year limitation. You guys are not, you're not signing on to a 6 year deal. You can still do a 1 year deal. We can do a 6 year deal with 1 year extensions every year if the board chooses. But the reason we're doing this is we just know those letters create confusion, especially for those that aren't in the program and aren't really familiar with it. So creating a longer term deal gives you the same exact abilities to be as flexible to enter, remove, or extend the program in any way. But if we think the future is this price match program, which is what NIMAC believes, this just allows for less letters and communication. So you can still do a 1 and 2 year deal, simple thing, but what we're kind of recommending is doing a 6 year deal, choose your 1 or 2 year option, and then at the end of that, I'll come back here and you guys will have the same options you normally would, but if you guys do renew, it just makes the process easier. So I know that's a lot, and that's why we wanted a little bit of a
No,
conversation.
I like that. I like doing a 5 or 6 year deal with 1 year out every year. I think that makes most amount of sense because it's less amount of mail,
Yep.
fusion that goes out.
Yep.
So I am
But
on board
it's
with
just,
that.
that's the biggest problem we have with this, it's just.
100%. 100%. And it's,
Indulge me for a second.
Yes, sir.
Why is the communication plan different for the 2-year plan versus 6 1-year plans?
Because-
It-
yeah.
Excuse me for a second. Because it seems like you're making it easier for us to do or you're enticing us to do the other one, and that makes me very nervous. Because that means there's something in it for you, and I don't quite know what that is yet. So I want
what's
you
in
to
it- yeah, great
tell me
question.
what's going on
Great
there.
question. What's in it for me, I hate to say this, is that I don't have to deal with residents who are not in the program who are like, why am I getting this letter? Who call me? It's really just a 1 year deal. But in 1 year, if you guys renew the price match program, you would only have to communicate with residents who are currently in the program. And so it just lowers the amount of letters that go out. Because
And
by
where is that rule set? What I'm hearing is if it's a 1-year renewal, then only the people directly affected have to be notified. But if it does go to the 2-year threshold or beyond, then we're obligated to tell everybody in the entire town.
Yeah, well, because
Because you're renewing it then.
technically you're not doing a renewal. Technically, you're doing a new program.
Yeah.
The last letter that we sent out last year said, hey, that we've entered into a 1-year deal that will expire at the end of the summer of 2025. What we are now saying is, hey, we're going to do a 5 or 6 year deal, whatever you guys choose. And if we exit it for any reason, you will be notified. But you can assume you'll be part of this program for 5 years. It just limits the communication. You still have the same exact flexibility. So in a year from now, you could exit the program if you choose the 6-year deal. Or you could go look for fixed rates, or we can go find different suppliers. You would have all the abilities.
You got a lot of lawyers working on that. I can sense that.
I can
And
tell
a
you-
resident.
We're a small company. We don't have a lot of lawyers working on it, but
Right.
it's just, it's a way to help solve that problem, in my opinion. And like I said, if you are uncomfortable with it, we can do a 1-year deal and be done with it as well.
So just again to reiterate, the residents always have the option, though, to get out at any time.
No fee.
And we
no-
could
no-
also too. So I mean, that's my main thing is I want to make sure that they have the flexibility that they're not tapped into anything either, so.
Correct.
And I'm fine with it.
Correct.
So we do a 6-year deal, but we have an opt-out every year.
Really, it's a 1-year deal, but it's just, yes. Or 2-year deal, whatever you decide, but yes.
So what's the benefit of a resident ever opting out if it's the same price?
We get residents all the time that are like, hey, I want to join, or I don't try to convince people to join. Whatever you want to do. Some people feel more comfortable being in the program. There is no benefit to them. I hate to say it. We're always looking for that. I want to find fixed rate savings. We just can't guarantee savings.
Anymore, right?
Yeah, when I talk to residents, I tell them, I don't care. I hate to say it, I don't care what you do. Like, I'll get you to where you want to be.
So, Trustee Walworth, are you okay with a 6-year?
Oh, yeah, I'm still wrapping my head around it. I can see that the terms aren't going to change, that
Yep.
we're going to try to make it as easy on the residents as possible, as Ellen said. That's kind of the end
yeah.
goal.
And we're still saving money, and we're still able to capture that
Right.
Yep.
municipal. You're okay with it?
Yep.
Okay.
I am too, but I do have a question. So,
Shoot.
what, if you go with the extended program
Yep.
and you have the 1-year
Yep.
outs, what is the expectation of this contribution, and how is that contribution even calculated?
You're asking the good questions now. Okay, so every year there would be a new offer from MC Squared. And so in a year from now, if you don't like their offer and it goes from, what are you at, 18,000 and it goes down to 0, you can be like, well, we don't need to do the program, and you can leave. It might go up from 18,000 to 20,000. It might go, I can't tell you what the market's gonna do. So
Okay.
that's the first answer. You're not guaranteed anything after 1 year. But once again, you're not guaranteed, you don't have to take it if you don't want it.
Yeah, you don't even have to answer the second one then, because as long as we have the option to take a look at what's
Correct.
offered.
Correct. If
that's what
another
I was-
supplier comes in and can beat savings, that's the real thing we're hoping for, then we can leave MC Squared and go find savings for residents. You're not tying into anything, except I do understand boards don't love 6-year deals all the time, so I understand the caution.
Okay, I'm okay with it.
And that's a key point that Adam just made, that each year, if there are potential savings, right now, we're not in that
Correct. I'll be-
that realm, but if there's things change in the future, remaining in the program positions us to give that to the
correct.
residents.
I'll be back next June presenting the same options. Thank you. I was gonna say, it's much different than the old, I remember the old pillar that was in the way of the board meeting, so I
Yeah.
like coming up here. I like coming up here, so, thank you all.
Thanks, Adam. So you all good with us on the consent agenda for the next board meeting? Okay, great, thank you. Our second item tonight is discussion our communications plan. Is that what's next? Assistant Administrator Radcliffe has teeing this baby up, so this is the first time we're teeing up something big, so we're really going to pay attention.
I'm very nervous now. Thank you for the introduction. So today before the village board, we have a communications plan. Communications plans are pretty common throughout other communities and organizations. The Village Cary has always had it more on an internal basis, but we wanted to bring it before the board and the public to get a better idea of what the communications plan is and what it could benefit for the community. So in the plan itself, it covers 6 sections. We have the purpose, external communications, media relations protocols, graphic standards and style guide, and social media policy. And we also thought it would be pretty important to include the open forum section to discuss as well. The communication plan is very important for village staff to follow because it provides consistent messaging and a protocol for staff to follow. You're going to hear me tonight say consistent a lot because I believe it brings professionalism along with the village staff. External communications, in this plan itself, we cover several things. We cover how to write a press release, what fonts to use, what font sizes, what press releases are exactly for. We cover what social media posts should be like, what to post on the website, things of that nature. For media relation protocols, it's always important to have the village administrator as the main point person. For any time we receive media releases from the newspaper, it's important to have the village administrator well aware of that. Sometimes it does go to department heads, and department heads are noted to reach out to the administrator. So again, so we have a consistent message to the public. Here, which I found pretty unique when I joined Cary, is that we have several logos that we utilize throughout the village. We have our Village of Cary logo, Choose Cary, Cary Social District, Cary Downtown, and we also have logo variations, which is not very as common as other organizations. Typically, they have one logo, so I think this helps expand our reach. But we provide this to staff to ensure, again, a consistent message. We even go in more detail, providing staff on email signatures, the font to use, the logos to use, memorandums of understanding, business cards. Again, consistent and professional. So I kind of flying through the communications plan itself because there's a lot of detail in it that might bore everyone here. But as part of the communications plan, we have their social media policy, which is Appendix A. Our current social media policy was adopted in 2019. In that social media policy, it lists it as a public forum and not to be interactive due to limited staff. As you know, since 2019 to 2026, social media has changed greatly. There's different platforms out there. There's different ways these platforms are used. And also, social media is a 24/7 platform now. So there could be posts happening at 2, 3 a.m. Where staff are not aware of it until the next day. Our current social media policy provides content for comment restrictions. It clearly defines what can be commented and what comments can be removed if it does come to that. And in this, we provided 2 options for the village board to consider to update our social media policy. These are in no order, but option 1 before you is changing our social media policy to be used as a government communication tool and not to be interactive. A lot of communities are starting to do this all over the U.S., a lot throughout Illinois as well. As you can see in the graphics there, we have our current Village of Cary post. You can see in the bottom that has a like, comment, send, and share. And then you can see LaSalle County Sheriff's Office, their post, in which they do not allow comments on their posts anymore. And you can see at the bottom, that footer will always show on all Facebook posts if we were to choose this option. This, again, is more for communities that don't necessarily have a communications director to monitor these social media posts and to catch comments that might be obscene or hostile. And then we have option 2, which is essentially the social media policy that we accepted in 2019, but we cleaned up the language to be more specific to being a limited public forum. And the difference between the public forum, a government tool, and limited public forum is making it clear that this is a one-way information. With this updated policy for option 2, we would still allow comments on our social media, like Facebook, LinkedIn, things of that nature, but making it very clear that this is a limited public forum and it's not to be interactive by staff. And then I have one more slide, and then what I'm hoping to get is direction from the village board on which option to choose from, so that we could bring it to the village board for formal approval at a later meeting. And then as part of the communications plan, we thought it would fit in really nicely to talk about our open forum and our public comment sign-in sheet. Staff have been making changes to the public sign-in comment sheet to try to make it more clear for staff to reach out to residents and visitors following a meeting. So with this, we are also proposing another change to our public comment sign-in sheet, which you could see in the graphic there. We're trying to make it more clear for name and address, phone and email if they desire to be reached out to. A lot of residents we're seeing are favoring towards receiving emails as opposed to phone calls. So we are hoping this highlighted section to be included on future village board agendas as well. We're not going to make the mayor read the whole thing, but we believe it improves our transparency. And with that, I'll open it up to any questions.
Quickly, before we open up for questions, I did want to highlight that with the social media policy options, with either option, the main communication channels that we have for receiving responses from and interacting with staff still exist with either option. We encourage residents to have questions to either call us at our main number or to email us or like some individuals here, come to meetings and request a meeting, and we can reach out, staff can then reach out and re-engage those individuals. So those options, even if comments are not included on our Facebook and social media, those venues for interaction with staff will still exist.
Thoughts?
I would just add one that I don't think we want to be in a position of trying to determine who is who and who is real and who is not in a social media world. So I would be more inclined to limit it to an outgoing only, not to dissuade any sort of public comment, but there's just so many hurdles to cross to determine if this is somebody who is a real person, if this is somebody who even has any connections or interest in the village of Cary other than in the social media world. So I just don't think it's a positive opportunity for us to interact with the people we should be interacting with. They should be at our meetings, they should be at our open houses, they should be interacting with our staff, rather than on social media, which is a little bit of an echo chamber. So I'd certainly be in favor of the option where it's a closed, one-direction type communication.
I agree.
I would agree with that. I also think I have personally seen some pretty nasty stuff coming back in the comments section. It's always a tricky thing. You don't want to make it seem that we're not interested in getting that feedback, that, you know, some people may take it as that type of a message. I guess the one thing I kind of lean on with this topic is if somebody felt passionate enough to make a comment, they could theoretically share that post and then make their own comment on their page. Is that fair to say?
Correct.
So they would still have an opportunity to comment on whatever the post was. It would just be on their page as opposed to the Village of Cary. So that being said, not stifling people, they can still share their thoughts. And there's also other outlets on social media where that happens outside of the Village Facebook page. I would also be in favor in just having it be a clean presentation of our information.
I agree wholeheartedly. I think we have to figure out what is our goal. If our goal is to disseminate information to people to get, so that we're transparent, so we have everything out there, it's not I think that if you kept comments up there, you're setting an unrealistic expectation, and people, no matter what you say, are gonna feel like you're not responding, they're expecting a response. So I'm definitely in favor of saying that, as we've all seen and witnessed, we certainly are aware of people that make up fake names, whether they're from here, whether they're not, we don't know. But I don't want to take up staff time having to answer things like that. If someone has an issue, we want to get the information out to them, be transparent, and give them all kinds of opportunities to come before the board, to send emails in. There's so many other ways we can interact if people are passionate and want to have some interaction with us. So I view it as if a communication tool for us to get information, disseminate information.
When was the last time this was revised?
2019, when we first implemented it.
Option one, please, and thank you. I agree with what everyone said. I'm not going to repeat it, so.
I also
Good job, guys.
agree, but how many times, not that you may not know off the top of your head, how many times have we had to delete comments or inappropriate things? Eric, do you know or no?
A handful.
I am not aware that we've had to remove a post that violated the policy. There's been some posts, obviously, that maybe are in that gray area, but we have not removed any that I'm aware of.
And do we have one person only doing this communication and creating these posts for social media?
We recently created a communications committee, which is composed of myself and 2 other staff members. But that's more for future planning, annual posts that typically happen and creating graphics. But for someone monitoring it, it's typically just as they come in, we will keep an eye on them, but not as frequent.
I agree for limiting comments, all or no comment feedback, but
Trustee Dudek?
Question first, is there any trend that you guys are aware of in the municipal marketplace as it relates to even being on Facebook as a municipality? Is it an absolute? Is it an option? What is the trend, if anything?
Most municipalities have a Facebook presence. And we're, in all the other dealings I have, this is something that we're dealing with regionally. When we first, if you remember, when we first integrated this into the system, this was specifically meant to push information out. Yet another way that we can get the information factually out to the residents. But sometimes it takes a big turn, and it's hard for us to, and we don't have anybody monitoring this. And so that causes us to get people saying, well, is this true? Why, the false information that gets perpetrated from the facts is just utterly amazing, absolutely amazing. And our job as elected officials is to make sure that our residents have a clear understanding of what the village is doing, where we're going, and how we're going to get there. And by pushing just the information out, we're going to better we're going to complement our actions as well as what the residents need to hear.
But we do that through Cary News Weekly.
We also do that through Textcaster on
Yeah.
occasions. With Textcasters, it's not interactive. Cary News Weekly is not interactive. But more people, I think, would get because we push the Cary News Weekly out on Facebook as well. So we're trying to capture as many people as possible.
Does Cary News Weekly have the capability of becoming interactive?
I don't think so, and I wouldn't recommend it.
No?
I
Okay.
would not recommend it.
I'm not a big fan of the Facebook presence. I've seen too much in too many years go sideways on us because of that. And if we weren't even participating on Facebook as a village, I don't think we'd lose anything. That's my personal opinion. I'm sure others disagree. I would just as soon use Cary News Weekly as our vehicle to push out information and leave it at that.
Are we considering, and just throwing this out, there's other forms of communication out there, are we thinking of doing Instagram, are we thinking of doing Snapchat, are we thinking of doing, I'm not saying TikTok, but are we thinking of doing other things as well? Because I think that the goal with a lot of our communication was, there are a lot of people that aren't on Facebook. There are a lot of people that aren't on, don't get the News Weekly. There are a lot of people that aren't on the Textcaster. So we're trying our best to have some avenues out there to disseminate information to them so that we can be as transparent as possible. So I'm just, I think taking it away, while I understand what Trustee Dudek is saying, I think that people have that tendency, I know as a personal human being, when someone takes something away from you, they tend to think that you're doing that for a reason. So I don't know that it would be beneficial to us to take it away, but I think that we can make it so that we make it clear that this is just for informational purposes only.
And Ken, I'm building upon the question that Trustee Dudek asked and what Trustee McAlpine commented on. In researching, we weren't proposing with this policy here to change our platforms. So answering your question, I can't say every community, but the ones I'm aware of, like Mayor Koenig mentioned, most have a Facebook page or Facebook presence. The other platforms that are out there are more of them now since we started this in 2019. I did have staff kind of look at those and kind of compare and contrast. And based on the demographics that are most prevalent on Facebook, and you compare those to the demographics of our community, which are updated with data from CMAP, the regional planning organizations, and on our ChooseCary.com, our economic development website. We do actually seem to fit very well with the general parameters of who's mainly on Facebook versus the other platforms and our community. That being said, there are other options, but most communities like us don't have the resources to duplicate those posts. There are tools out there to help with that, but by and large, other communities, I think, like us, are finding success using Facebook as the primary social media outlet, along with the standard website and outbound alerts like Textcaster and an email newsletter.
Just so I'm very clear to everybody, the reason I'm hesitant to want to continue on with it is you can get the exact same information by going to Cary News Weekly. And we have all seen the posts that get done on articles that we push out that are incorrect, that's, spin things in opposite directions and don't always help us. So if I felt that the general public was getting any less information from the Village of Cary if we eliminated Facebook, I would feel differently. I don't think they are. I think they can get everything they want from Cary News Weekly. The only thing they don't have the opportunity to do, to your answer to my question, is to be able to respond back. If they were missing something, I'm all in. You got to tell me they're not missing anything.
Well, I think, like Eric had talked about this before, it's that demographic, that's where they get their information from. And our goal is to make sure that every demographic that we're dealing with within the Village of Cary has something, like how we used to, haven't done it in a while, I don't think, but we used to print out the Cary News Weekly and drop it off at the senior center because there was a lot of seniors that wanted the information, but they don't have internet.
Right.
None of the stuff goes to them. They get newspaper. They like to have things. So we try to accommodate every demographic that we have here. And as much as I don't like the idea of having Facebook, and there's a lot of my fellow mayors that don't because it's more of a pain, but we have an obligation to use that because that's one of the most widely used one. And to Trustee McAlpine's suggestion is, there's a lot of municipalities going to Instagram because there's an older demographic that's using Instagram rather than Facebook. And I'm like, I'd rather just keep it where we have right now. My goal is the mayor, is to make sure that we are getting the information out, that it's accessible to whomever is looking for it. One of the great things that I think about limiting the comments is that we're not going to be having this back and forth all the time, or, I'll get a call from a resident, this was said on Facebook, and then I'll have to have staff, will you go take a look at this? And we'll eliminate that whole step. We don't, as much as I would love to have a communications person that's solely dedicated to this, that would be a great asset to the community, but we just can't afford it. And to Assistant Administrator Radcliffe's, we've got a new committee that's going to be handling some of these things, and we just don't have the I don't want to say capabilities, we just don't have the staff to handle something like this in a professional manner. We want everything that leaves us to be professional and factual. And we don't have to have somebody in the back of your mind thinking, we got to respond to this. Like you said, sometimes these posts, and you're well aware of it, come out at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and then we don't find out about it until 10 o'clock at night, and the damage is done. So, I like to be transparent. I like to be factual. I think this is the best way that we can do it. It's, we're not stepping on any First Amendment rights here, are we? And I think that it's important that people have a right to, seek the information or get the information. But our goal, and when we talked about this at the staff level before we presented this, is to make sure that people on Facebook know that this is for information. If you've got questions, call us. And we will work on our phone system. We are, it's budgeted, we just have, we have a need. I get it, we hear this. I appreciate what you say, but we have to do a better job of that. And for people to send us emails is great. I get emails about stuff all the time, asking for verification about what was said on Facebook. So I think that this is a step in the right direction.
One quick question. With the no commenting, I don't know if I was not paying attention or not, there's still, you can still click private message, right, and still message through it?
Yes.
Yep, you're correct, and you can still share it as well.
Yeah, okay.
And for the record, I do not want us to go to Instagram, Snapchat, anything. It's like having, as a lot of people on the board I think agree with, too many signs, it's too many social platforms. So just want to put that out there.
I agree. So I think we have direction that moving forward with the option 1. Thank you. Well done. Congratulations. Your first big presentation, huh? In the books. So now it's Anyway, all right, so our next item is I think, Brian, are you handling this? Food trucks?
Right-of-way discussion first.
Oh, right away. Oh, okay. Why don't we do the right away discussion?
Sounds good.
Oh,
So
wait,
just-
can I pause for a moment?
Go ahead.
I told Scott he could comment.
No, that's okay. I think it was covered.
Okay.
So, if we're sticking with Facebook, we don't talk about turning comments on and off on the other platforms. We're not gonna use it.
Okay, thank you. Apologize for that. Director Simmons, back to you.
Thank you, Mayor. The item this evening, just for discussion, previously the board had brought up some concerns or wanted to have a discussion about the right-of-way, use of right-of-way within the village of Cary, and kind of our policies related to certain improvements that have been proposed. Just want to kind of give an overview of what the right-of-way is basically as far as the roadways that we control throughout the community, and areas that we have allowed specific uses within those areas, mainly on public sidewalks and infrastructure. But as a village, as the owner of the right-of-way, we're to be stewards of the right-of-way, so we can establish various rules and regulations to enforce actions within the right-of-way. Basically, we're required to maintain the infrastructure that's in that area, so any utilities that are beneath the surface or improvements that are on the surface, we're responsible for generally maintaining a safe area. So as part of that process, we're to ensure that the right-of-way continues to function effectively for the benefit of the entire community, and with that, we can balance basically different issues from public access to the right-of-way, and safety, but then also allow, in certain instances, the public to utilize that area. So within the right-of-way, generally the village does require permits to do any work within the right-of-way. So those generally go through our Public Works Department for utility enhancements or new installations that occur within an area, or if a homeowner is replacing their driveway, they have a permit to be able to replace the approach within the right-of-way to access their site. Within the village in the last few years, we have had a few agreements that we've issued with property owners for the use of the right-of-way for improvements. The first of which was a sign that was installed on Feinberg Drive for the former Wool Street restaurant that was now is the Galati's Hideaway. Back in 2008, the village entered into an agreement with that property owner for that restaurant to be able to provide signage for the businesses that were on Feinberg Court, as there was no direct visibility from Route 14. So in 2008, the village entered into a lease agreement with the former restaurant owner, which then that sign has since transferred to the ownership of Galati's, and they're continue to maintain that sign and operate that sign in that location. We don't collect any revenue from that on an annual basis. Basically, they're allowed to continue to maintain that property or that sign in that location. There's various provisions within the agreement as far as what tenants can be advertised on the sign, which basically other businesses on Feinberg Court. And then it's an annual, or it's a 1-year lease agreement that we have, which is renewed on an annual basis. So we have the ability to basically cancel it any time from that standpoint. Most recently in 2024, we entered into an agreement with All for Canine for their new location on South 2nd Street as part of the zoning process for their business relocation to that location. They had sought variances for parking requirements, and as part of that, they provided for the facility on that street some additional street parking or parking for the business within the right-of-way. So we allowed that improvement to take place. Again, the parking was intended for the business, but it is within the right-of-way. So we do have a lease agreement with them for the use of that space for their business, and there's various provisions within that for, again, signing it to make sure that it's for residents and customers know it's for the business. And additionally, there's no additional charge for those improvements. But as they age in time, there's requirements that they would be responsible for the maintenance of that area as if it was part of their property. Other examples within the community, as far as where we allow the use of right-of-way, specifically, for outdoor dining, more mainly in the downtown area for businesses that have direct access to public sidewalks out their businesses. We've allowed for outdoor dining in the downtown area for placement of furniture and of tables from that standpoint. Sign and canopy encroachments, again, in more the downtown area where you have business storefronts that are directly up against the right-of-way. You'll have canopies that'll be overhanging the right-of-way. So we do allow encroachments from that standpoint within our sign ordinance, provided there's a clear height from the sidewalk path to the base of that canopy so that individuals like myself don't clock their heads walking down the street. Other access permits, mailboxes, things like that are the type of structures that we do allow within the right-of-way, but those are purview to the U.S. Postal Service as well. We also have provisions for small cell wireless facilities, so we have not had many of those locate within the community as of yet, but there are provisions within the code that would allow for those locations on existing utility poles and along things along those lines. Mainly within the Unified Development Ordinance, we do have provisions for outdoor seating, outdoor dining. That's just summarized in the slide. So we do allow for outdoor dining. There's requirements for both on private property and on public property. Specifically, the type of furniture that can be installed is regulated on the private property, but with the public property component, all the requirements for a private property would also apply to public property. So that's why I'm listing both of them on the slide. But essentially for outdoor dining is the chairs and furnishings need to be removed during the winter months or stored in a location so they're not visible to the public. There's limits on the hours of operation for outdoor dining, proper disposal of items that are consumed in those areas, and then limitations on music and entertainment hours in operation from that standpoint. And then for the use of public property, again, we do not charge for that use, but as long as they comply with these regulations, they do have to provide various forms of insurance. Basically, for utilizing the public right-of-way, they provide insurance that would list the village as an additional insured for the use of that space for their equipment that they're placing on the property. But additionally, they would also be responsible for the maintenance of that area. So if the area is damaged, say a chair gets picked up and dents the sidewalk or whatever type of damage there would be, we can charge back to the business for those repairs that be necessary. And then also under the code, we do have the provision within the code that should the village determine that an area is unsafe and it needs to be removed, per the code, the village administrator has the ability to provide 3 days notice to have any sort of area that might be approved for outdoor dining potentially removed as well. The next slide I just have for some examples of areas that have outdoor dining within the village that we've approved in the past. Specifically, majority of them are downtown. Obviously, the nature of development downtown is different than the rest of the community where you do have public sidewalks directly adjacent to establishments. The right-hand slide focuses more on, I guess, the transition or the change of Alfresco Alley over the last few years, where there was originally outdoor dining directly next to the restaurants, and as we closed the roadway, how that has modified or changed over time with additional tables and structures from the tent standpoint with that closure that we've been performing on an annual basis. Elsewhere in the downtown or other businesses, we have allowed other tables to be placed in the right-of-way adjacent to properties as well for the use of that area. So just providing this information for reference, happy to answer any questions that the board may have. If there's a need or desire to look at the regulations further, happy to do so if there's some potential to make changes, but just want to kind of give a refresh of what our current regulations are and then how we currently are allowing individuals to utilize the right-of-way in specific cases.
Sure.
Do we have any regulation if someone is not compliant with other issues pertaining to village ordinances that they are able to continue with some of this type of outdoor experiences?
Generally, if there's a violation from a standpoint of a business that's not following the code, we specifically, that we issue that specific violation as opposed to other issues. If they're compliant with code for the use of the right-of-way, we would generally have a code issue that we'd be addressing specifically for that issue if the rest of the property is under compliance.
So we're making sure that if we allow that we have the liability, we have the extra liability insurance. And what happens if someone feels like that there's a risk factor, that they're concerned for the health and safety of anyone with someone having it located somewhere? Do we have anything where we have any ability to talk about that or see if there needs to be any changes made?
Yeah, certainly. I think with any plan that we have in the village, we, as I mentioned, we do have the ability for the outdoor dining to have it removed if warranted from the village's standpoint. For any area to have tables or furniture installed that would require approval through the village the first year. Generally, as long as it follows that plan that is approved, we don't require a resubmittal every year, just from a sake of paperwork of doing the exact same permit issued on an annual basis. But the first year that somebody's looking to do an improvement or create an outdoor dining area, we will require a plan showing where the furniture would be installed, the type of equipment that would be installed at that location, and then we would approve that plan. And then if we determine over time that an area is not safe for that operation anymore, we do have the ability to require that plan to be amended.
And I'm going to just go a little bit further. I apologize, I'm just kind of piggybacking on this. I believe that there's other municipalities that charge a fee for allowing this type of thing, because there is work that our staff has to do sometimes for this type of affording these opportunities. Is that correct or not correct? Are we aware of any other municipalities and what they do for things like this?
Just from my personal experience, the municipalities I've worked for have not historically charged for it. I know in the past the village of Cary did for certain installations that we had specific leases for an area, and it was just the business changed over so many times that the lease was constantly being renewed. So it's certainly something that can be discussed, but it's not something that I've historically seen for the use of public sidewalks, is to establish the rules and regulations and then have the applicable documents submitted to the village for review.
And I'm not advocating it, by the way.
Sure,
I'm just
no.
asking.
Yeah.
I'm not looking to charge someone to do that. I love the things that we're doing, it giving people the opportunity to do things like that. On a total, it's really not under this, but I just need to mention this because I kind of forgot about it. Are we going to address the private parking lot? Because it's been lit up all over the place that there's, a parking lot that is private that is now just in the last week switched over and is getting, is being able to charge a fee for that. And I'm going to tell you that the public thinks it's us. There's a lot of public, I don't care how many times Dale says it's not us, it's private, it's private, it's private. People think that the village has approved this, that we have anything to do with this. Is there any way that we can get that information disseminated, or can we require something that has a sign that says this is private property?
I think you just did, but yeah. Yeah, it's a
Well,
private.
I understand that, but not everybody watches or
Sure.
listens to this.
Sure, no, I appreciate
So-
Come
it.
on,
Yeah.
have you seen our views?
I think we get about 10
Yeah.
views.
So the parking lot in question is a private parking lot
Yes.
downtown. Obviously, it's not owned by the village, it's not controlled by the village. There's nothing in our regulations that regulate the use or the charging of private parking. So it's a private property manager from that standpoint. I noticed the signage has changed on the property where they now have advertisements as far as the daily pricing for parking. So there's other signage that has gone up to indicate that it's a private lot, but it's not something that the village currently regulates as far as the use of payment for parking.
Just wanted that on the record, that's all.
Yep, no, I understand.
Appreciate that.
Thanks, that won't help me at all. So I'll bring up the question of Spring Street. So we allow a business now to put up a large tent with seating that they're only using for their own business, even though it's in a public right-of-way, correct?
Correct.
So what happens if another business, even not in the downtown district, wants to set up their own tent there? What's the policy about? I understand your business is on the property, you're on the sidewalk overhanging, but Now we're talking about Spring Street and setting up a tent.
Yeah, so generally for the outdoor dining spaces, they are contiguous to the business that is utilizing the public right-of-way. So in the form of the downtown area, the outdoor seating that we have are directly adjacent to those establishments. In this case, with the closure of Spring Street, it is a larger area of the right-of-way that becomes available. So we've limited that business to utilizing just the portion of the right-of-way directly adjacent to their establishment. The rest of the closure is for the public use from that standpoint. So the tables that are out there are actually provided by the village, but generally if another business wanted to establish a presence not adjacent to their physical location, I believe something like that would require board approval for an off-premise location from that standpoint.
All right, I understand that, but it's in public right away, and I'll use the example of Trax has tables outside their place. Anybody can sit there at any time they want, and they're not kicking them out. Why is one business allowed to have a tent and not allow public to seat in it unless they're at their establishment?
So the tables that are outside of the Trax establishment, again, those are ones that are provided by the village. I don't know if they actually provide table service to those locations. They're generally, from an operational standpoint, but if the business is providing the tables outside of their establishment for their dining patrons, then they can regulate kind of the use of that space. If it's the public tables that we are placing out there, then there would be no regulation as far as who could sit at those items.
I know what you're saying. I'm bringing it up because I've heard several complaints about it.
Sure.
Do we still have the QR codes? Are we updating those? Because I know some of them got a little bit jazzed up. Are we kind of updating some of those where people can look at, if I remember last year, we had the QR codes that you could scan on, you can get all the restaurants around and order and have it delivered to Spring Street?
Yeah.
Are we doing that? Okay.
Yeah, that information has been updated. We actually
Great.
updated with more recent additions to restaurants in the community. But then sometimes those get vandalized or, wear and tear on them over time that we will replace those.
Perfect. Awesome.
And I was going to add, Trustee Collier, you might note some other communities that allow dining on the public right-of-way on streets that are closed, similar to our setup. They also follow similar practice to where the individual restaurants, if there's more than one restaurant, the seating that is with table service just to that restaurant only coincides with the limits of the frontage of that business. And if there's restaurants on both sides of the road, you see it split evenly. So in this case, there just does not happen to be another restaurant on the
Sure,
opposite
this could
side.
be a discussion for later. I just disagree with it at this point. I think that should be a village tent at this point then, and anybody should be able to utilize it, just my opinion.
Well, that's,
I have
why-
a follow-up question that's actually a process question that digs into exactly what Dale's saying. Is you mentioned in the ordinance for dining in a public space, so dining in the public right-of-way has to have an approval of the layout, et cetera, et cetera. Is that a staff approval or is that board approval?
Staff approval.
Okay, so there's an opportunity for us to potentially talk about making that something that is not staff approved, it is board approved, number one. Number two, and I think this kind of speaks to the heart of the conversation about the facility in question, is, they seat about 40 inside and they seat about 120 outside. So it's not so much a matter of, in my mind, just as a discussion point, of them offering an additional kind of amenity. It's nice, you can sit on the patio. We're completely expanding the footprint of their business by utilizing the public right-of-way, to the point where they've made an investment for quite a bit of money, which shows me that there probably is a demand. And I don't know that the public right-of-way space is there, should be their purview to increase capacity by 200%. That seems to me, and I can't put my finger on exactly how we would go about that. Maybe it's number of seats and percentage or whatever, but it's just the idea of, just because of the physical location, they get the opportunity to double their seating for 4 months a year, where other facilities that are in our downtown and just as beloved as this one is beloved don't get that opportunity just because of the location. Now, you could argue that some could do that instead of having parking paid for, but that's a discussion for a different day. I think
I
the-
don't want to even go there.
I think the pertinent discussion to the board probably should be, do we want this to be a staff level question? Or do we want this to be a board level question? Because in the top right corner of the screen right now, we see where it was when it first started. And to me, that seems like al fresco dining. We're just all kind of outside because the weather's nice. And in the bottom right, I see somebody owns this area and I'm not obliged, or I don't feel welcome in there unless I'm ordering off their menu. So this is an expanded dining room for them in a public space, which I believe I have a little bit of a problem with.
Second.
Trustee Dudek?
I do agree. I mean, that sidebar that Dale and I were having was about that exact thing, that it's a great amenity, but it's not fair to everybody. And to Rick's point, it's just, is it luck of the draw that it just happened to be on the street we closed? I guess.
Right, because we can, like, I'll just put the example, another restaurant asks to close a different street, but we're never going to be able to close another street in downtown because of access to parking and Metro.
I do think, unless you want to solve the issue now, and I'm guessing you don't have to solve the issue.
Well, we're just kind of trying to get some feedback. This isn't really the direction I thought we were going to be going tonight, but let's have at it. But we're trying to look at, how do we want to manage this? Is this something that we want to continue doing? What I was really looking for is, I agree with what everybody has said, fair is fair, I guess, but we've always had, it's the close proximity to your location. Like Conscious Cup, which is not on here, they utilize our public right-of-way on their other side when they have that patio section and they have their own tables and chairs there. One of the benefits of Al Fresco Alley is that anybody can sit there at any time on our furniture. I've had conversations with the owners of the restaurant that's featured here. They say that people sit at their tables all day long during the day, and they have no problem with that. And if we want to change the policy where somebody wants to go and sit underneath their tent at one of their tables and don't want table service, that's something that we can say, hey, look, if somebody wants to go sit in your table on our public right-of-way, why not? I have no problem with that. But I'm looking more towards the maintenance that the problems that we have with people, and I get a lot of complaints because my office is downtown Cary, and people come and tell me, part of this permitting process, do we want to make sure that these establishments are maintaining the areas that are adjacent to them, including the garbage cans that are overflowing all the time because of this? How do we manage that? Sweeping the streets, the garbage, the one that's on the lower left, maintaining the grass. The grass looks terrible right now. If you drive by there, it's all mud. There's tall grass. They're not. Do we say that if we allow this, they have to move the tables around so it's not ruining our grass that's there and making it look decent. One of the things that we have an obligation to do is provide a clean environment for everybody to utilize all of our services. And this is kind of what I think is important right now. We can talk about. I'm happy to talk about business placements, but one of the things that Trustee McAlpine brought up is the QR codes, and we allow anybody to deliver to Spring Street all the businesses downtown have been notified. They want to do table service there, and they want to run back and forth from the restaurant, have at it. You want to deliver there, have at it. The problem comes in is where they don't want to provide the table service because I wouldn't if I was, wherever.
Running all the way down the street.
Running all the way down the streets, carts, whatever. I mean, I get that. But this is an amenity that has been very successful in the downtown. And if we look at other ways that we could enhance other businesses that are talking about it, but, let's have at it. Some of these other businesses can make, tents on their own private property that's out there too.
I think that's kind of where I was going to suggest that for discussion purposes, what you have over here is beyond just what's written. In the memo. It's really coordination, consolidation, and offerings of the whole downtown, part of which is under construction now, and who knows what that will look like and how that will be used months from now. To me, it seems like at some point, maybe staff needs to get together with the restaurateurs, all the businesses downtown, and talk about this particular thing. I don't frequent all of them. I frequent this place quite a bit. But I bet some of the other restaurant owners are not happy with this. And if they've shared that, I think that needs to be communicated so that everybody doesn't fight one another, but they cooperate together so we can have a cohesive and even more profitable and successful downtown.
Sure, I would have no problem, you know, talking to staff about, and the rest of the board, about if we want to allow other restaurants downtown to set up a tent, you know, on the weekends or something, and they sell food like they normally would. I mean, that's something we can have a discussion about. But to have something that's, you know, that kind of goes, well, then people that are gonna be at their tent think that they should have that. I guess I'm talking about just serving the food. Maybe you have a 10-by-10 tent that you serve various things to people that wanna sit out there. I have no idea how that would look. Like, correct, kind of like on Spring Street too. And remember, next year, we're not gonna be able to do Spring Street like we're doing Spring Street, because it's supposed to be under construction. Right, Director Noonan?
We're working on it.
Yes. So, you know, these are the kind of things that we need to work through. You know, there's growing pains, there's conversations to be had, and, you know, I understand that, location. But happy to have a conversation about it and, you know, come up with something that people feel is fair, but
I don't want to fault a business that looked at a need and stepped up and delivered on that either. I don't think we're looking to punish a business that has said, hey, here's what's happened, here's what we've done, and I've optimized on that. So I think that we have to just look at it holistically over the whole thing, see where we're at. How can we make this? If we need to make some improvements, how do we do that?
how do we make this better? That's more fair.
Well, I
to jump on
appreciate
that-
you.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead. No,
To
go
jump on
ahead.
that as well, I think, you know, from when the regulations were passed was in 2019, we updated our outdoor dining regulations. So that was pre-COVID, pre-spring closure. So when our regulations were approved, we couldn't envision really that this was going to be an option, you know, for an establishment as well. So if the board wants to revisit those regulations or see if there's a way to speak more towards what the vision for this area might be more, and develop regulations specifically for that, I think that certainly is a good discussion to have to determine, is this what we want to see? And if not, you know, what is it that we want to see and how do we regulate it from that standpoint?
And then also about the fees, correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, are we charging the new potential, I remember, I should have, sorry, Eric, I'm gonna go there. Are we charging a fee for the container bar to be there? And if so, why are we doing that? And then why aren't we charging everybody else a fee to have the same thing?
Yes.
I think that's more of the discussion I was hoping to have.
Yeah, it's a good question. So we were charging a fee for the container bar because it is leasing public property as opposed to the right-of-way. It's a business establishment that is being created on the site. So we did charge a fee for that business entity that would be created at that location for the use of the village land versus these locations for outdoor dining being directly adjacent to the business. They already have an establishment located within the downtown area. So this is an extension of their their business that we do allow within the code. So they're similar, but two different issues from a standpoint that one is a existing establishment in this case where they're expanding it or allowed to use the space directly adjacent to their business versus the container bar location is a new business entity that's created on that site and specifically utilizing village property as opposed to village right-of-way.
Right, because that's not right-of-way, it's public property.
Right, it's renting versus
Okay,
right
I get
away.
it. That clears that up for me, thank you.
So I'm hearing, if I may, that it sounds like the board would like us to maybe review some options, a potential update to our outdoor dining regulations, conduct some outreach with the local businesses, and bring this back for a more detailed discussion.
Yeah, I'd like to see just the businesses contacted first, and we can go from there. If it works out between them, I'm fine with that also.
Okay, we will do that.
Invite them to a meeting. Agreed. Did you get the information you're looking for, Brian?
More than I did, yes. Appreciate the feedback.
Thank you. Oh, you keep going? All right, and now we'll go to the food truck.
If I want to present it, no. So Just the food truck, this discussion, as the board, most of the board may recall a few years ago, we did have a discussion regarding food trucks within the community, kind of post, again, COVID, started to see some more activity within the community. We had a discussion, I believe back in 2021, on what the requirements are for their operation in the community. So just wanted to bring back, for discussion purposes, not proposing any changes, but just kind of reiterate kind of what our current policies are towards food trucks in the community. This slide essentially summarizes everything from how we regulate food trucks. So within the village, on private property, so a business, a property owner, can request a food truck to come for a special event, whether it be a graduation party, a restaurant wants to have a food truck in their parking lot, they can have that and be on private property. We don't regulate that at all from a standpoint that there's no permit that's issued from the village. The only matter that we do require is that food truck operate on the private property if feasible, so that it's not in the village right of way blocking traffic or having individuals in the street acquiring product from that food truck. They do have to comply with all the county's health requirements for the operation of the food truck, so they're properly licensed through the county to operate within the community from that standpoint. Within 2022, we did pass regulations for the use of right-of-way specifically within the downtown. So we have allowed food trucks to temporarily or pull permits for individual days that they want to set up in the downtown area. The cost was established at $50 per day. In the last 3 years, we've had one food truck each year request approvals for that. A few days last year, I think one food truck was there for a couple days. But essentially it was one operator that has utilized that service the last few years. We have limited it to use on only Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays within the downtown area, and there's two specific locations that we approved. One is at basically the end of Spring Street on Main Street, and then the other location was next, basically the Kiss and Ride area next to the Depot Plaza. As the board is aware, those locations the last couple of years have been under construction. So there maybe has not been a strong desire to locate downtown with the streetscape improvements that were being performed recently, and also with the depot work that's currently taking place. We have not seen a lot of high demand from that standpoint due to those improvements, but staff does intend to market that more as well here in the future, so that it is an opportunity that food truck operators are aware of that may potentially want to come back in the downtown area. So there's kind of the two regulations we have. If it's a private event, private property, we generally have not required permits for that work. But if you want to locate on public property in the downtown area, we have the permitting process for that that process. So happy to answer any questions the board may have, or if there's a desire to make tweaks to the policy, certainly happy to have that discussion as well.
And I want to highlight also, as you can see, that Director Simmons mentioned, we do allow them currently just in the public property in downtown. So you might notice, well, that excludes Cary Lake at Rotary Park. So if you were to host a private event using our pavilion, you would not currently, under our regulations, if I'm correct, be able to have a food truck there, because that's not currently in our regulations.
Correct.
So your recommendation is to add it?
No, I'm just stating the fact. I'm not recommending.
I would second your motion.
Yeah, I was just gonna say,
I
I think we need to add that first.
But,
This is before my time, but did I hear you correctly? Only one out of the last year pulled a permit?
So the last 3 years, we've had one operator each year.
Got it.
There's
The
been
same operator.
two different operators that actually have applied for the permits, but each year we had one operator that operated.
Okay,
one.
where did $50 come from? And again, I apologize, this is before my
No,
time.
that's why
That
we
was
just wanted to revisit it.
discussed at a board level, and just for the processing of the permit is where
That's where the
to
number came from?
cover administrative costs.
That was when a
Didn't
lot of
we see what other communities were charging too? I
yeah.
think we did some extensive research on that as well.
Okay. I would just like to put out there, on top of what was just stated, the limited to Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I'd like to actually see that 7 days a week. I don't know why we limited that to only 3 days a week. But
Agreed.
I would like to see that. And if we're only getting one person, one truck company, I would like to also revisit the $50 a day, to actually dropping that, to hopefully get some more people, get some more movement.
That's,
our
that's
area.
why I brought this up, was because
Yeah.
I talked to him, to Jim,
Yeah.
and he said, listen, I'm paying less at other places. I'm just letting you know that I think your fee's a little high. So I'm like, okay. So I brought up kind of last
Yeah.
fall and said, hey, let's look at this just to see, should we revisit it? Should it be lowered to 30? Should it be 25? I mean, what's reasonable, number one? Number two, I did have down Cary Lake, written down there to ask about that, but my other question is, how do we get food trucks there for cruise nights? How comes they don't have to pay?
For special events, again, it's, if it's
So
a
every-
special event that's occurring, so if it's cruise nights, if it is.
Farmers market.
Main Street Fest, Farmers Market, the Park District events for 4th of July, they have food trucks out there, but they're a private event on generally private property or special events, we've allowed that outside of this.
I see.
This is just, the permitting that we've, is to
Okay.
control when a food truck is downtown, because some of the concerns we heard from businesses were they have a physical presence downtown,
Yep.
they're investing in the downtown area, that this entity, if we're not charging a rate, or they're there to set up every week, that they're competing with, those businesses that have a physical presence in the
Right.
downtown area.
They have
So,
a- yeah.
so
I
it's-
get the
Right.
concept behind it. I'm not,
Right.
but I was just kind of curious. So we consider cruise nights a special event. We consider farmers market special event. So that's why we're not going to charge for those type of issues.
I'd also like to just even add to that too, are we okay, can we like discuss maybe like even an annual license instead of a daily license? So give them an option to do daily or X amount of dollars for if they want to get an annual license and actually have like a schedule to where they can schedule what days they want to be down there.
Yeah, I
And
think-
just say like 30 days in advance or something like that. You can't go beyond 30 days, so at least give everyone else an opportunity or something like that.
Yeah, and I think certainly something along those lines would be feasible. If it's an annual license, if it's $50 for the summer, and you have, with that, you can pick 5 dates or something. I'm just throwing, information
yeah,
out there.
I hear what you're
So there's a way that they can select the 5 dates that they want to be there. We know when they're going to be there as well. And that way you're not having, we're currently limited to 2 food trucks per day is the maximum, that's downtown, so you don't have 10 food trucks arriving,
Right.
at the same date. So that we can kind of control that, and then maybe there's a different way to say it's a annual fee if, I'm saying keep it at $50, but maybe that gives you 5 opportunities to be downtown.
Is that application able to be filled out online and paid automatically, or no? Is it paper coming in here to do?
It's on our website, so you can obtain it from the website, and we now have the ability to issue a permit and collect online. So
Okay.
Awesome.
That probably helps with the
Question.
$50 fee also is kind of not necessary then?
I disagree. I think that they have to have some skin in the game. There's a lot of, we have to schedule it. We've got to make sure that their health department, that they're, a legit, you just don't want
Yeah.
somebody pulling up. I think it's important, we're a professional organization. We want to be represented, professionally. And my first thing was like, let's see how this goes. Like maybe reduce it to $30 a day and just see if that drums anything up. But I don't think we're doing anything to promote this.
No.
I think we will do some substantial
can't
promoting
yet.
to our communications committee.
We could do it on Facebook and Carrie, we
Push, it's mainly for like when we finish the plaza. I mean, that is one of the features
Right.
that we have for the plaza. is to
We don't
push
have
this
the
out.
right, we don't have the right time on this, to be quite frank, because what we do right now is going to be irrelevant until the end of next year.
Yeah.
When we get to the end of next year, then it becomes, that should be our target, should be when the Depot Plaza is done, Spring Street is redone, then we need to have, then this dovetails into the previous conversation about the right-of-way. We've got a 2-year horizon for 2 very significant downtown public works projects. Spring Street redone and Depot Plaza. We should have all of these discussions with an eye towards that.
Sure.
You could make this $5 a day. You're not going to get 2 trucks a day every day. There's not people down here to eat lunch and dinner on a regular basis. So it's just, we're not going to, we don't have a Woodstock Square where you can block it off and get 50 trucks. It's not set up for that. And that's the reason we did this 2 years ago with just these 2 spots. And once we get to a point where we can accommodate more, it's fine. I'd be more Because if we want to make it 30 hours a day, I don't think that's going to drum up any additional business. I'd be willing to institute a waiver for those companies that have a truck that are located in Cary, and their business in Cary, and their Cary residents. We can work out a local waiver, or a local rate for, you know, if Jim wants to have some skin in the game, great. That's wonderful. I don't think we're going to see any, we're going to spend another hour talking about this. I don't think it's going to make any difference
Yeah,
on the number
I-
of food trucks this
Yeah,
year.
I tend to agree with that. But one part, yeah, we are. This should have been talked about last year. But is it possible to make an amendment to the requirements right now for Cary Lake? So if somebody wants to do something in the fall, that we are able to do that to promote that? Because if somebody has an event down there, and again, we're not pushing this out. We're not. We don't, you know, one of the things that we're talking about is having an entertainment and events committee that we could start pushing some of these things out and encouraging people to do more private
Is that
events.
the only place we had to consider that's public domain, kind of, is Rotary in downtown, or is there anything else?
Oh, we don't really have any other property.
there's not.
I mean,
I'm just
if they
thinking.
wanted to do it on the
For Park
street,
District property, you
Yeah,
know, if you went to
everything
Lions
else,
Park, you want something
yeah.
like that, that's Park District property.
that's Park District property. So, you know, I'm open. I love the idea. You know, they seem to be successful when they're down here.
Well,
But,
Woodstock does a huge one, right? I mean, I'm just saying, it would be great for us to, eventually that be our goal, you know, to kind of learn, you know, maybe we all commit to saying, hey, let's get a few of us out there, check it out, see what's going on, and how can we bring it here?
I have a question about sales tax. How is sales tax handled? My understanding is you have to be registered in the village in order to charge sales tax. That's what I got from a vendor in Crystal Lake when I asked that question. Is that true?
Yeah, that's true.
So how are we collecting sales tax on any food trucks? Don't have to have an answer now, but I think it's something to think about. And then, call me quirky, I think a cruise night food truck display would be very cool. Those things are so colorful. Block off the street and just have 12 food trucks there, and let them be able to operate as part of a cruise night theme. It's quirky, but they're very popular. I think everybody here recognizes it. It'd be very different. I'm not sure anybody does that.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I think it'd be kind of different. Just a thought.
I'd be up for anything. I don't know if we can call it a cruise night because we already have a cruise night on a Wednesday
Call it
night.
whatever you want to call it, I don't care.
Food truck event or
Food truck
something.
night.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the
Yeah,
cruise
but
night
it's
has a
adjacent
theme every
to, people can
week.
get a cocktail and, you know, that's, again, that's something that we could, you know,
But
put
I do
down
think
as
we,
what-
we need to look
It's-
into how we handle sales tax for
Yep.
the food trucks.
Yeah, because again, maybe that's, you know, part of the fees that they're registered to make sure that their event is registered in the Village of Cary. I don't know how that would work. I'm assuming they can adjust their POS system to accommodate the sales tax.
Aren't they classified as basically mobile catering?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so they're
there's-
classified as mobile catering, so wherever the business is incorporated, if they're incorporated in Woodstock, that's where the sales tax goes. So the only sales tax we get is from Jim.
From people that are registered here.
Therefore,
exactly.
I would say again that we should at least discuss as a group entertaining any business that is incorporated in Cary, that does pay the sales tax in Cary, that we waive this fee.
And maybe have a higher fee for those that are not. Maybe.
I would be fine with that. I just asked if that was fair to everybody. If, as long as they're registered in the Village of Cary, they can operate for free. But they still have to come in and register, and they just
Yeah.
can't show up.
Correct.
Okay.
And I think some municipalities were doing things like, you can sign up, but only for 5 at a time. You know what I'm saying? So you can't just sign up like, I'm gonna take 12 spots. You only do X amount, then you get through one, then you can do another one.
Right. Yeah, the
Like,
couple-
not that we have a huge demand here that we're not able to meet. I'm just saying that at some point, we'd love to have that be a problem.
Yeah, and just for the feedback, the couple operators that we did have that came in, they did do multiple dates when they applied. The one that was not from the community, you know, they didn't get the turnout that they were hoping for. You know, again, it's how do they advertise that they're there and whatnot, and depending on what the weather is on those dates. So in some cases, you know, they have done well. In other cases, they've not got the foot traffic that they thought they were going to get. So it's a hit or miss from that perspective too, is what type of advertising does that business do to attract, you know, customers to their location?
Yeah, Spirit Water does a good job. I'm just letting you know. They bring in a lot of trucks and they advertise it a lot, and people will start coming because they know who's coming to their place.
So I think we have some direction similar to the right-of-way outdoor dining. We will also look at food truck requirements and bring back some options very shortly, it sounds like.
Okay, sounds good.
Awesome.
Okay, I will entertain a motion to adjourn into executive session to discuss real estate purchase or lease by 5 ILCS 120/2C5.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We will adjourn into, and we will adjourn the meeting from executive session. This concludes our public portion of the meeting. Thank you.